You're on mute.
Listen to you, man.
There you go.
Recorded December 18th, 2025. Good afternoon, Franklin. Good afternoon, Rod. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah, I'm doing good as
Good.
well. Let's see. This is our last episode before the holiday break. I'm actually pretty excited. It's been a while since I've had. It's not really been that too long. That long since I had multiple days off in a row, but because we had Thanksgiving. But I'm really looking forward to this, and I'll have more to say in January. But I have some exciting work news to talk about in January. So.
Yep. I won't spoil it. I know, but I'll be quiet. If you pay me a nice, it's in my hand, bug. Get off of there. Yeah. I can't say this. Well, I guess it's been a while since I've had multiple days off, not counting Thanksgiving, but I'm looking forward to my vacation travels. Rod, I know you're sort of out of the office already,
Oh, I set my out of the office message at noon today just so nobody would give me anything else to do.
I'm setting mine tomorrow at noon. So those that are listening and want me to do anything, it gives you a last little bit of opportunity to do it. And then I'm, I promised somebody I would help them out with something on Monday, but essentially I'm out Friday and one little call Monday, and then I'm off until next year. And I always have these working vacations. So they're learning vacations for me. I'm not going to do any work, but this is where like stuff Frank told me to go do. I haven't got done, especially with the MCP stuff and the little quest he gave me to do. So I queued all those.
That was one of my questions for you. You've already
and then some stuff that we sort of picked up as a little bit of a hobby. Brody and I did, like during the winter months. He and I will hunker down and try to get new certifications and make sure we recert it because he's frozen in the frozen north, and it's getting colder every year in Atlanta. So I got some stuff like that. So that way I don't feel like I'm totally disconnected, but things that get me pinned in, like email and stuff like but I got some study I need to do, some things I want to do. Other than that, did some data lake stuff today, some pricing stuff, some architecturing stuff. I got to do something that is very rare these days. I had a customer and we set up Sentinel and everything, the whole commit and caboodle from scratch, from absolute scratch. Not they already started and wanted to tweak it. Let's start right now. And I was pleasantly impressed with the naming convention for the workspace, how they were integrating Defender for Cloud, how they were being very deliberate about which XDR data, the research that they had already done on multi-tenancy and multiple workspace capabilities, found maybe a bug, and look at that. And then they wouldn't give it to me, but they got a logic that they built from their previous SIM that they are able to quantify the value of the logs they bring in by how often they use it in IOCs, threat detection, and hunting, and they give it a score. And that's how they determine whether they put it in a data lake or they put it in analytics. I was like, can I have that? And they wouldn't give it to me. And it had a spreadsheet component to it, but it also had one. So they watched the logs come in. And then when they ran this report, they're like, we haven't used that log in any of 5 categories that they had in 30 days or 60 days. And they did it. Now, what they wanted to do is set up some type of automatic way, and Sentinel does this, whereas you can run a KQL query, and there's some workbooks that look at how often tables have ingested data to determine how the analytics run or something. I've seen it. Either Microsoft done it, Noodle's done it, Nathan Swift has done it. Somebody's done this. I've seen it. But it gave me some ideas about what's doing that. Other than that, playing around in the lab, man, trying to stay warm. Had my old man physical today. It was about that time.
Old men physical. You walking funny?
I am walking funny. Voice a little high. Clear my voice. Yeah. That's all I had. And studying. I have been so much into this stuff. Thanks to Rod, I didn't shoot my foot off. Almost shut my foot off. If you're playing with Azure AI Foundry, better turn it off.
Don't ask. Oh my goodness. Can I even talk?
I'll let Rod talk about it.
Can I even say anything? Should I even say anything? I don't know. I probably get in trouble. I did a Frank. That's what we call it now.
We call it a Frank.
So for the longest time, like the past, I feel like if you're going to understand something, a great way to understand it is to dig in real deep. So generative AI, I've been doing a lot more development lately just to figure out all the nuances, what you can do with it, what you might be capable of using it for. I've been using the Grok API, XAI API, because it's pennies. It is so super cheap. And I'm thinking you get what you pay for. So, but it's really super powerful. All right. Probably one of the best out there. I have something that I was working on for work. Everybody knows where I work. And I thought, wow, if I build this thing and it has this Grok API that it's, dependent on, then that's going to be issues. So I ported it to Azure. I ported it to Foundry. And I'll tell you right now, the role I was in previously, we had carte blanche, tenant, Azure credits. We just do whatever the heck we wanted. Probably spent $5,000 a month, something like that in Azure. You kind of get used to that. In this new role, we don't really have access to that number of Azure credits or a big tenant or big demo environment. So for me to port this, I needed an API with Foundry. And so I set that up using my Visual Studio subscription, which is $150 Azure credits per month. I used that up in like 2 hours after I ported it over. And Frank, I left it running. I got a bill yesterday for almost $1,000. I didn't even touch the thing at all for a week. And so I'm in dispute right now to, not have to pay that. So
yeah, we'll see. I could have warned you on that.
Well, why didn't you?
So Edward, that's why the task I gave you to do, which you have not done yet, is you're going to be running the LLM local to learn the ins and outs of coding with, against, or whatever an LLM, which then, once you learn that, you'll see in the UI of Foundry what you're exactly doing and understand that. So you should, I have not worked with Foundry local or whatever they call it. I use other tools to do my development local. So learning, I would say definitely do that. And I think that you learn more from working with a local before you go to Foundry, because then you'll actually see what Foundry is doing. You can actually now see because of what you have done local.
What do you recommend as far as local? I'm using like Olama or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The problem with this is, and it's distinctly with you two individuals, that every time I learn, it costs me money. And so I sit here and, I'm trying to be more diligent in saving and investing. I'll be retiring here in about 10 years. So 10 years will be on you before you know it. I just turned 57 here a month ago. So in my infinite wisdom, you can justify anything in this world. So I said, well, if I'm going to run these things local, I need a machine that can do it. Hence, $6,000 later, I have the baddest machine that Apple makes.
But the thing is, I'm doing this on my Surface Laptop Studio.
I don't have to stuff. I got a Surface Laptop Studio here, and
I'm just saying that I'm able to do this coding.
I don't
testing.
have enough time. You running here and you rendering and you trying to get all these LLMs. You're taking days.
I'm just saying you did not have to go spend that much money on.
Well, the cool part about it is that was MSRP. Ran through some channels. I didn't know that my wife knew one of the VPs over at Apple, or one of the regional VPs, and they're friends. She's friends with his husband. Can't mention his name. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got you." And he said, "Oh, do not go into the store, brother. Don't do that." So he sent me this code and a link, and you go to this Apple page I've never seen. Put it in. I can't tell you how much, but it'll be delivered. And I had to delay delivery because it will happen when I'm out of town. So I said, oh, no. I don't want nobody touching this but me. Now, here's the bad part about it. You only get the compute. You think that compute is expensive? Go buy one of their high-end monitors.
Oh yeah. Monitors are insane.
I think don't hold me this. I think they have an 8K monitor. That's what it looks like. So
you don't need that though. I read 4K is the best we can see anyway.
Yeah, best you can see. But
tell me about GPU and how much memory you have for your GPU, because that's what matters for.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's relates to the Mac, but that's what matters for doing this sort of work.
Yeah, the GPUs, and it has a gigabyte designation in it, I think. I was like, what? And I don't think it's single GPU. You had an option where you could put 2 GPUs in this thing. I didn't know that was possible. I think it makes sense that it can, because you could put multiple video cards inside of a regular PC motherboard. So I assume that you could, right? But the problem is you can't render out both of them simultaneously into a monitor that has a dual input that will merge the signal. I've only seen one monitor do that ever. So it's going to be cool to run it. I thought about buying a bunch of Mac Minis and stacking them and doing it, but because I could get those used. But we will see.
The other thing is there's other ways to get cheaper GPU access to. There's places that you can go and get, a virtual machine GPU that you then can do this on. That's very inexpensive compared to what you've done, and run the quote unquote locally. I'm gonna
repurpose the machine. So I justified the expense. Of course, you go in. Oh, I'm learning this and that. I'm gonna not use it exclusively for that. Because to be able to run those models, I do have like 3 studios. One of them has they don't have NPUs, they're GPUs, right? And so one of them has.
Hey, listen, I've run into problems with this because I was doing work with VLMs and I couldn't do what I needed to do. So, fortunately, I have a kid that has a machine I can use. So now I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Since you have not done the task I've given you and what you would learn from it. What class would you have chosen, the leadership class or the other class, if you actually got this?
So our listeners are probably like, what the hell is he talking about? Give some context about what we were talking about.
No, you go ahead, because I forgot the name of the other class. So
okay. So I had an opportunity to get a voucher for GX Sans certification. And I'm like, this is going to be my last one. They consume so much time. Really, really quick. There were 2 that I was considering because in that part of my career is when I get these certifications, are they relevant to make me better at my job? I just don't need another series of letters behind my name. I got enough. So there were 2 courses I was considering. One of them was the Certified Defensible Security Architecture course. It teaches you how to architect infrastructures that align to zero trust framework, right? And I thought that would be a good thing to do because it was agnostic. Microsoft has their zero trust framework that's mapped to a NIST framework, and it's certified. NIST is certified like Microsoft Zero Approach is one of our approach models. And then there was another certification that talked about artificial intelligence security for executive leadership or something along those lines. Cybersecurity.
No, there's the leadership one talking about developing the risk plan, the strategy for security strategy. That one.
So that one was if you're an emerging CISO, deputy CISO, VP, and your job is to set the strategy for security, and talk about it from a thought leader certification. Now, one of them had a certification designation that you take the course, you finish, you get a certificate, and you've done the course, but there's no exam to take, which was the leadership one. The one for the defendable architecture, zero trust one, had a certification that gave you a GAC. I think it was a GCDA, Defensible Security Architecture Golf Delta Sierra Alpha. I said, well, I'm going to spend this huge amount of money, even though it was a voucher. I want to be able to go write the exam. I want to be able to take the exam and get another set of letters, right? So ultimately, I sat down and Frank said, well, which one are you going to do? So it was the leadership one was obviously easier. I think it may have. I don't think it had a test. And the other one was this: you got to go sit down to, Prometric of view and take the exam. So ultimately, I chose the zero trust one. I said, I'm going to do this because this is transferable to be able to come out, because I had no aspirations of being a CISO or CIO or something like that. Or
those are the people you're selling to.
The people I'm selling to, right? I can have that conversation without having that course. I think because of what my role is, it's better for me to be able to sell a thing, or a idea that it's in the buzzwords, which is, hey, I want to align not only our regulatory thing around this, CFI, HIPAA, whatever else, because zero trust can sit at the top of any framework. I don't think it's something that you map to. I think it's something that you use to help enhance whatever the other ones that you are obligated to do. There is no requirement for zero trust. That is a architectural design designation state. But when someone says you have to be PCI, HIPAA, GDPR, GLP, SOX, those things have it, and these things can give you ideas, because zero trust will allow you to be able to map it to products, whether it be Microsoft or something else. So I thought this one would be better for me to do. So I was going to go that route. Unfortunately, the voucher had expired.
All right, so I like to hear feedback from the audience at some point, whether or not taking the leadership, the CISO, would be better than taking the tech certification, which you already know all the tech stuff anyways, right? Which one would be better?
I don't.
Rod, what is your vote? When he already knows this, when he already knows the tech behind this, he already knows this. Which one would be better?
Edward, if yeah. Oh, asking Edward or Edward for Edward. I'm still thinking in my head that what would be the benefit for either one? What am I going to go for that role? I don't know. I don't like junk certifications. If it's not going to improve my standing,
you already know the tech side from
I definitely take definitely take the management side, but again, what's that going to get me in the long run, to be honest?
Well, I had an interesting conversation with two CISOs this week, and one of them was sort of like a mentorship one. Hey, Ed, where are you going with this, right? And the other was like, unless you get into the creation of stuff, eventually your tech stuff sort of, you know what? There is no right answer. What I love about what we do for a living, and we'll get to our guests, is that in this realm of technology and cybersecurity, within reason, you can sort of map yourself, right? I am very much still technically savvy. I'm not at the highest level like when we started this podcast 5 years ago, because I've been geared toward the pre-sales and sometimes post-sales, right? But my role requires that I still have a Microsoft rates still level of technical proficiency from level 100 to 500. Literally, there is a mandate that you have to be 500 in Microsoft in certain things. I am 300 across most of the products I support, and I'm 400 on maybe one or two. 500 is what I define it, and I actually wrote a paper on it. You can't be 500 without having an in-depth knowledge of 300 across a competing product. So you can't say I'm a master at this without knowing somebody else's product that does the same thing at least a 300 level. I'll share that paper with you guys. I wrote it and sent it to my manager. He loved it. I'm like, yeah, you can't sit here and say, well, I'm of level 500 at Microsoft. Well, you only know Microsoft products. You need to know somebody else's competing product. Like, I'm CrowdStrike certified. Went through it last year. I'm Cribble certified. I have numerous certifications that I go through, right? Because you can't understand it until you see somebody else's position on it, right? Yeah. And and if you're going to learn it, learn your biggest competitor. So I sat through their course. Yeah, I sat through their course and went through their stuff. I'm like, well, that's different, and so that was that. So I chose the one, and that wasn't that. And Frank, let me ask this question before we get to our guest. Which one did you think I was going to choose?
Before we get to our guest, I have one more thing to say, but I thought for sure you would take the technical certification. I didn't think you would take the CISO certification.
Yeah, but I'm already.
You know why? Because I think you are more comfortable in that area, and this would have been out of your comfort zone and dealing with what was going on there. I am much more comfortable in the world of tech than I am in the world of management, right? So that's why if I was in your shoes and I was like, hey, the company's paying for it and they want to see results, I probably would have chosen the tech.
And I get it. You're right. I'm actually CISO certified through the EC Council, so I went and got their CISO certification. So
yeah. So let me just say this because we got to bring in our guest. So last week before, whatever, I was in the job task analysis for SC200. There is now a blueprint out there with the changes that they're looking at making at the what's going to be tested. I think you guys can put that link out there so everybody can go out and select what they think is most important to actually be tested on the exam. So it's called blueprinting. It goes out to the public. There's some big changes in there. It's actually fascinating going through that process, thinking, okay, Borg XDR, everything's being assimilated into one place, and how that changes the certification. So hopefully people can go out and do that blueprinting, and we can put the link out.
Yeah.
So let's bring on our guest.
Let me ask one more question before we get a guest on really quick. Tell me, and you stop me. I'll just ask the question and you fill in because I don't know what you're supposed to much. When you and I talk about the SC200, and you are one of the biggest contributors of how that exam matriculates and how it evolves, you always talk about that. Are you not working on any other exam thing? Because I see like maybe Microsoft is not showing love to the other exams. They're showing love to the 200. And how I know people are actually afraid of that exam now. People are freaking out. They have to go take that exam right now. And I'm like, yeah, it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder. Why is there so much emphasis on that particular exam? I don't hear anything about the 300 levels, the 100 level, the AZ and the MS 500 anymore. What's going on?
MS 500 is retired, but I do work with, I do JTAs for a lot of the different security exams. And so it just depends upon the time, and they like to shuffle people around to get experience across the board. So I've been on SC 100, 300, 400, AZ 500, that sort of thing. I've been across the board on all of those. So, but they do shuffle people around in there.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering. It seems like everything I hear about exam is always SC 200.
I mean, SC 400, or 401, you want to look at the mastermind behind that. That's our guest right now.
No, let's do it. I know who to blame now. Let's do it.
And here we go. Watch this.
Hey, welcome back, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
You good?
Getting ready for the summer break in South Africa because we Northern Hemisphere people don't have snow in over Christmas.
You don't have snow in your particular region, but doesn't it snow like that way in like Morocco and everything up in the mountains?
Yeah, but that Morocco is sort of on the far other end of the African continent, right? It's like the furthest north you can go. We are on the southern tip of Africa.
I've been to both places. I spent time in Cape Town, Durban, and as well as Johannesburg. And then my wife and I, early in the year, we drove from Marrakesh to Casablanca and stopped at all the other places for like 10 days. And we were driving them through the mountains and everything. Beautiful country. I mean,
Alistair, so the reason why we're having you back so soon, once you start talking, introduce who you are, because you do a better job than I will. But the reason why we're having you back on so soon is that you, to our audience, pointed out, hey, look, all of these agents out there, how are you going to manage them? They have these NHI, non-human intelligence, no identities, non-human identities out there, and how are we going to manage that? And that was looking to be a big problem. And so then Microsoft at Ignite announced this whole Agent 365 with multiple personas. for where you can get that information. So I said, hey, Alistair, come back on. Tell us about how this solves the problems that you were seeing and how to manage it and so on. But please introduce yourself first. So if anybody's new here, they can find out who you are.
Alistair Pugin. I've spent a lot of time with Frank on these certifications. I'm an enterprise architect in sunny South Africa, and I'm a security and Microsoft 365 MVP.
You say
we have to have him leave.
Was...
MVP, he's out of here. Take him off the show. We can't have MVPs on here.
But he said spent time. He stopped. He hesitated there for a minute. I spent time with Frank.
I was trying to calculate, like, do I have scars? And I do. But Frank's got easier over time, right?
Yeah.
I got him so bad once in one of the meetings. He just sat there. I said something about him, and he just sat there for 5 minutes shaking his head like, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. Hopefully you remember what that was, Alistair. Something about you being in a band.
Good Lord. Yes.
All right. So tell us about Agent 365 and how this solves the NHI and HI problem.
Yeah. So, I spend a lot of time talking to customers about, zero trust and what zero trust looks like. And, Mark Simos, the MCRA, and that's sort of our North Star in our Bible and all of these things, right? But the conversation's always been about, when we looked at that zero trust model, the 6 pillars, identities are usually on the top left-hand corner. Most people don't look at non-human identities, right? We always consider identity as it's a human logging in. And when we look at attack vectors or go read MITRE or, pick a flavor, what's being compromised today is identities, right? That's what gets compromised. If someone's going to hack a firewall, great, but for the most part, the attack vector is the identity. And when we look at the architecture behind agents that live inside of the Microsoft ecosystem, it doesn't matter if you're going to go build stuff in Foundry or you're going to build stuff using Copilot Studio or the front end, there's an app registration and there's identity associated with that. And for the first time, we actually started focusing on NHIs, non-human identities that live rent-free inside of Entra, right? And a good friend of mine, Nicholas Blank, we've been doing stuff around, sort of identity security posture management and what that actually looks like. And now there's been a heavy focus on non-human identities, specifically around how these agents get spun up in your environment. And yes, Microsoft made the announcement where they've split the agent component of Copilot. So if you go into the M365 Admin Center, you've now got a separate tab called Agents, and they're giving you better functionality around managing these agents, because before it just lived there. And I'm talking about the out-of-the-box agents, as well as the agents that you would create, because everyone with an M365 Copilot license has the ability to create an agent. They call it Copilot Studio Lite, and people that Copilot Studio Lite agents, and then people that go into Copilot Studio, they get the Copilot Studio full agent experience, right? Where you can do the MCP stuff and a whole bunch of other things. So when you look at large organizations that have rolled out either the concept of agents or M365 Copilot to users, and they haven't done any restrictions, people are clicking create an agent, you've got the app builder agent and all of those things. So being able to monitor agent sprawl, right? Because that's the big one. Microsoft has now introduced the concept of being able to monitor what's happening just on agents. So agents that you can procure from the agent store, very much in the same way that you could buy apps from the team store, same. How agents actually get deployed inside of your organization. And you'll see that not only with agents that you build, but also agents that Microsoft is started rolling out, all the frontier stuff. You now have the ability to manage how these agents land on a user's desktop. So you can actually select all these new frontier agents. You can not deploy them, or you can deploy them and you can select a bunch of users that would get it. So it's not here's an agent and it's switched on for everyone. So Microsoft has gone, quite far down the rabbit hole to ensure that there's some semblance of management when it comes to agents. It's okay for now, But, at the rate of how this thing is growing, and we'll talk about DSPM for AI because that came first, right? And the extensibility of that. But at least now M365 admins have a way of managing agent sprawl, allowing people to only deploy agents from Microsoft and no other organization that's actually added their agent to the agent store, because that's also a simple process from a publishing perspective. So we are cautiously optimistic that agent sprawl is going to be curtailed, and that organizations have a better management plane now to manage agents inside of Microsoft 365 specifically. Manage, not govern. And we can talk about govern as we go through.
Okay, that you caught me right there. You saw it on my face. Manage, but not govern, because governance means, in my little mind, governance is I can detect and prevent and remediate of a sort.
Ooh.
Maybe,
it's like it's a Bloom's taxonomy, right?
So there's different personas or different ways to access this information. Defender XDR has an agents to access. You have 365 admin center that can access it. There was also at Ignite, they showed an ai.security.microsoft.com link, which was more of the compliance or executive level understanding of what's going on. So there's different places you can access the same information for the different persona. So let's talk about the life cycle and governance of agents, and also DPSM for AI, if you want to go down that path.
So from a governance perspective, the first thing is, what are agents and where are they? And you get that as an M365 administrator. It's got a control plane to view all these agents and also look at some sort of tooling around that. From a governance perspective, you can only govern what you measure, right? And that's where DSPM for AI comes in. And you can now start, and there's a whole bunch of things that you can do around managing AI all up, not just agents, right? Because agents is one thing, but go look at the top 10 OWASP rules for AI. Number one is prompt injection, right? And we're going to fall prey to things like that. I mean, I did a session on the new attack vector when it comes to AI a few weeks ago. And with DSPM for AI, you get to monitor and govern AI usage inside of your organization. And all those agents that you build inside of the organization, you can now start monitoring with DSPM for AI. So there's massive value in being able to administer, monitor, and govern the rollout of agentic AI inside of your organization, not just the Microsoft stuff, right? Because that's the easy stuff. You switch it on, give it to a few users, you become a frontier firm, and your C-levels feel great because they can say that. But when we start looking at monitoring things like, there's a great section under policies inside of DSPM for AI. And this is what I really like about Purview, outside of doing stuff in Security Copilot, right? Separate conversation. I mean, now that it's free, because people weren't prepared to pay for it.
Exactly free, but go ahead.
well, if you've got an E5,
we'll move on from that one.
Consumption, right?
If you've already paid for it, it should be right there.
So when you look at, as much as we have two components to Microsoft Purview, you've got the unified data governance side, which is just to sniff stuff. And then on the right-hand side, you've also got you've got the data security stuff, right? That's kind of how they split. And then the third pillar would be compliance. And we'll talk about compliance in a bit. But when you look at DSPM for AI in very much the same way that insider risk management actually works, is that it's built on top of what's available with the other components, like information protection, data loss prevention, insider risk management, the communication compliance side of things. And what DSPM for AI allows you to do is configure policies that's drawn from DLP policies or insider risk management policies or communication compliance policies. The information protection stuff is all around protecting your data from being, exposed to AI. But these policies that get pulled is, to detect sensitive information. If sensitive information is added to AI sites, or block sensitive info, sort of endpoint DLP stuff where you silently uninstall the Microsoft Store, but you let them use AI in a browser, those sort of things. Very much the CASB stuff, right? Being able to mitigate risk from an insider risk management perspective around data leaks when users are using AI to consume information that should be protected, right? Or be able to detect when users visit specific AI sites. And then you've got the ethics side, right? DSPM for AI also starts looking at unethical behavior when it comes to responsible AI usage. Someone's asking, hey, how do I solve world peace, or how do I make a Molotov cocktail? You can start monitoring that also inside of your organization, and that extends to consumption of AI, because everything starts with a prompt, right? And yes, you've got agent to agent communication, but it always starts with a prompt. And being able to monitor prompts inside of the organization from a usage perspective makes it much easier for you to have a view into what that world looks like. So you can start governing AI usage now with added agents inside of your organization by using things like data security posture management for AI. Make sense?
It makes sense. As I was just showing everyone that while you were talking, sometimes the context is lost until you see the portal. So I shared a little bit of what that looks like inside of Purview when you go navigate to the portal. And I also sort of started off inside just the admin, where you can see now that the agents are, the management component of it is actually inside, admin at Microsoft.com. I got a question for you though. So in my little test demo, I went to agents and I went to agent registry. And one thing that it sort of threw me off was it said, agent registry, 154 agents in your org. Now, to a person that's a novice, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't employ any agents in my org.
Yeah.
What happened? Can you give me a little insight? It's
the wording, right? It's always about the wording, and Frank and I have debated the use of words when we do these JTAs, right? So the agent registry is very much the same way that when you went to the Teams app store, you had a list of applications that were available to your organization, to your organization. It's not the agents that have been deployed inside of your organization. Now, earlier on, I said you've got much better control around how you surface these things. As an administrator, you're going to see all of the things. But there are policies where you can, well, not policies, it's under the settings tab, where you can decide what agents to make available. So if you're in registry right now, you're going to see Asana and you're going to see third-party applications, third-party agents. And very much, it's just a view of the store that's available, right? That's all that registry thing is. It's a store of available agents that companies have built and added to the store. In very much the same way, when Teams started, you got that view. Here's the Teams app store built by Microsoft. You'll be able to see that. And then, all other third-party vendors, ServiceNow and a few other things that will show up. But it includes the agents that ships with your tenant. Like the researcher agent is available there, the files agent, and all these weird and wonderful agents that Microsoft is just now adding. It's going to show up on your desktop and a whole bunch of things like that. So the registry is not things that have been deployed inside of your organization.
How can I control this with Entra, and what's displayed in Entra? There's conditional access. Do you configure any permissions in there? So how does Entra play into this?
Well, agents, not the third-party stuff. When you build an agent, that agent, the third-party stuff as well, the only way they can communicate with the rest of your tenant is through Graph, right? So you can do stuff around how from an agent, I'll use an agent to agent, right? Or from a conditional access perspective, you can start blocking agent communication based on in very much the same way that you've done it before. Location, application, you can start using conditional access policies to protect identities, human and non-human identities, or prohibit human and non-human identities from accessing agents inside of your environment in very much the same way that you are. It's just another application, right? So you've got that filtering as well now inside of Entra when you start looking at conditional access policies for agent consumption from a user perspective, because you still have a user. Extending that into non-human identities when you start looking at agent-to-agent communication. If a nefarious character or a threat actor got in and took ownership of that agent because there's an identity associated with it, service principal, managed identity, it doesn't matter, and through some form of privilege escalation or there's no owner for that, they've got ownership rights to that agent, they can now get the agent to communicate with the other agent or perform functions. You can start monitoring that. And also, well, not monitoring, but building conditional access policies to say you can't access agents from Uzbekistan.
It's the same way that people would take advantage of managed identities. But, basically, this is just the identity, or any app service or whatever, because it's just the identity for the compute that you're dealing with. So from there, then each agent in himself is compute, if you think about it that way.
It's an app. And that app has permissions, right, to graph.
And the LLM itself is compute.
Yeah. And then depending on where your language model lives, I mean, if you're running stuff locally, different story. But if you're authoring against it, fine. But if you're putting stuff inside Foundry or in very much the same way that, and this extends to the app builder agent as well, because that app reg doesn't live in Entra. It actually goes over to the Dataverse ecosystem where it actually gets deployed there. And that freaks me out because there's no management of that inside of Power Platform Admin Center. There's no management.
So people should pay attention to Entra.
Yep.
They should pay attention to DPSM for AI. And then they should pay attention to Agent 365 and learn about all those things together to understand how the non-human identities are playing in your compute world.
Well, they should start with Agent 365, right? You got options for allowing the agent types and user access and all of those things. So you can start governing who has access to what agents that get deployed. You can also decide what agents are made available from an not from an administrative perspective, but for me, I'd start straight off the bat and, allowed agent types or where they're coming from. I can condense that. I say, well, okay, only Microsoft apps and Copilot Studio apps or agents that we build inside of the organization is available for consumption. And then I can even shape that and say, I've got an agent group with 10 users in, and only they will see it, even if the other users have an M365 Copilot license. And the other thing to consider, if you are not rolling out M365 Copilot, but you want to roll out agents, you can buy a messaging pack, a capacity license, or you can go into pay-as-you-go. And then anyone with a Copilot Studio license can build an agent, and you can have that deployed to users who don't have the full M365 Copilot license, and you can still manage that as well. So I would start there and then look at the governance side around how you're going to monitor these things and interactions with it, DSPM for AI, and then also understand that every agent you deploy has an identity attached to it. Well, it's an app that's going to live in Entra, and that app is going to have, that identity is going to have permissions to graph, because if you connect it to SharePoint or any other resource inside of your tenant, you're going to have to grant it permission, sites.read.all. If I'm building an agent to go scrape things out of SharePoint, I'm going to need that. It's the same with Teams. If you have some weird and wonderful device agent or you're connecting an MCP graph, you're going to have to grant these permissions from an admin consent perspective to that application. And this is the scary part, right? If you don't have an approval process for deploying applications inside of Entra, if you don't have that, and you've got 1,000 M365 Copilot licenses, do you even know how many agents you have? Because people click buttons. and they go, oh, this is cool. I read this. I watched the video. I'm going to go build. I want to build a website. I want to build a page with App Builder. And that shit just starts showing up in your tenant. And as an identity and access management professional, you start shitting the bed, literally, because yesterday it was fine. And 3 weeks from now, you've got 200 agents living inside of your environment and you have no idea what they are.
Yeah.
Where does Defender for Cloud Apps play into all this? Because I know they've just recently added all the agents, or at least the ones that we know about potentially in there as well. Is that part of this scope, or is that just
that's for the shadow AI world? So yes, that does play a role into it.
We're calling it an agent, but it's just an app.
It is, yeah.
Right. And in very much the same way that we'd use Defender for Cloud Apps to sniff, monitor, identify an application, right? And we're going to do the same thing when it comes to sniffing, monitoring, and identifying. Not in the same way that you do it inside a DSPM for AI, from a reporting perspective, to drill down and go look at this person asked for medical advice because they want to leave the organization in a prompt, right? But from an application perspective, we can start monitoring that sort of usage. So who's got Harvey AI or Gilo deployed? And I mean, Gilo you can deploy inside a Foundry. It runs on top of Foundry inside of your organization. And who's consuming those third-party apps as well, not just the stuff that lives inside of the agent store. Because the extensibility is not just inside of the agent store or in the agent, what are they calling it? Agent 365 thing.
Yeah, but we are back to talking about different consoles and different tools to use for the different things versus some kind of consolidated tool somewhere where we can look at Agent 365 and
Org XDR for you. The
yeah.
security people.
Yeah, XDR, I'd be able to look at it. And
well, I'm looking at XDR, and the Purview stuff's still not in there. DSPM's not in there. Cloud Apps is. Cloud
agents are in there. Your Agent 365's in there.
Is it?
Is it?
I'm looking.
Look under assets.
Assets, AI agents. Oh my goodness. Right. Look at that. And it's split out into Copilot Studio, where if it was created in Copilot Studio versus if it was created in Foundry.
Remember, there's different personas for accessing Agent 365 information. You're in the security persona right now. There's the Entra ID person. There's the 365 admin person. So
yeah, it says that this feature in AI agents is, it gives you two different, pivot points: Microsoft Foundry and Copilot Studio. So right now it's very much saying that we understand any agents that were created with these two creation points here. The thing that sort of makes me scratch my head, if you leave it, I'll read the little banner. It says, this feature is currently in preview and included with your Microsoft Defender CSPM and the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. Licenses at no extra cost. Licensing requires a may change so-and-so. So my thing is this mostly discovery? And I wonder what the discovery mechanism is. From an MCAS or MCDA perspective, I get it, but I'm trying to understand, why did they put it here?
Well, there's two. I was just messing with it myself. There's two options. One, secure AI agents, which is allows you to toggle a switch just for those created in Copilot Studio. If you click the secure cloud AI agents, it still takes you back to Azure Foundry in the Azure portal, and you have to turn it on there for Defender and Cloud, even though for Defender and Cloud is now in the Defender XDR console.
Yeah, I see.
It will all be assimilated over time. Don't worry.
Hopefully, yeah.
And the other thing is that if you you know what, I'll go to the mic here really quick. If you go here, you'll notice that I went to what I loved, Microsoft Defender for Cloud. You'll see that when I click through the agents, it brought me here. But look at what happens when you go into the Defender inside Cloud App Security or Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. You can see that it's there, and I never noticed this.
Yeah.
So it's something for us to go take a look at. App connectors, AI agent inventory.
Your screen didn't change, by the way.
Say again?
Your screen didn't change. You're still in Defender for Cloud.
Let me stop sharing and figure out how to do that. Give me a second here.
That's okay.
There.
I still like Defender for Cloud.
Yep. And I'm going to go back and share again and share screen there and Defender for Cloud. There we go. Getting used to it. So when you go here, you'll notice that inside the settings in the security.microsoft.com or defender.microsoft.com, I went to assets and clicked around and I got into it and it took me to Cloud App Security. This is something I'll admit I have not seen this.
Yeah, that's
it's in preview.
Oh, I want to show you something else when you're finished there before you leave that screen.
Okay, go ahead.
Go under identities.
Go on
the left side, full left side. Go down.
Okay.
Identities. Keep going. No, keep going down. I know this is weird. Keep going.
Oh,
down.
you mean in the actual? Okay, not the assets, but actual identities over on the left-hand side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, you're not there. You're still not
there
yet.
Go back to your left menu and then go down below Microsoft Sentinel.
Oh, identities.
Go to dashboard.
Okay.
Identity threat detection and response dashboard.
Yep.
So how will this actually play into when you're dealing with identities, with AI agents and all that stuff? But we can leave that alone for now. So what's missing, Alistair?
Governance.
Governance.
Yeah. So, for the last couple of years, everyone's talking about responsible AI and all of those things. And, we talk about frameworks and we talk about NIST and zero trust and all of those things. And you're starting to see, when did they update it? I think they updated in September. The MCRA was updated sometime this year to start including zero trust for AI, right? But at the same time, you've got industry regulations that are also now starting to filter through to compliance manager. You've got the NIST AI risk management framework that's now available. You've got some ISO stuff, and then you've got the EU AI Act as well. So for organizations that want AI, but they don't understand how to govern it from a standards perspective. I mean, we talk to customers about zero trust, how to roll out zero trust, what it means, assume breach, verify explicitly, least privilege, right? 3 tenets. And then we talk about, we've got a program that will take them on a journey over a 12, 18-month period to roll out zero trust and, subscribe to whatever legislative, regulative, or fiduciary requirements they may or may not have. Right? And in very much the same way, compliance manager will give you the ability to not start from nothing, but it's a premium template, so you're going to have to pay for it, or you're going to have to buy it. But if you want to, in the same way that you've approached zero trust or NIST, you can now do the same thing when it comes to AI. Run the assessment through your environment. Red means bad. Look at the remediations or the improvement actions that's going to come through on the dashboard.
All right, let's slow down here, Alistair, because some people might not know about this. You're talking about Purview. There's also one in Defender for Cloud for dealing with compliance and aligning with different regulations. So let's take us back to step one. What are you talking about? Is this in Purview? Where do you go? I don't understand what you're talking about. Just make that assumption, okay? You're a little bit too far ahead of people that don't live in Purview every day.
So originally, Microsoft, and you can still get to it, was the Service Trust Portal, right? Any public cloud provider needs to be compliant in or adheres to specific industry standards like ISO 27001 or 45,001 or the GDPR. I mean, that started in 2018. And because Microsoft is a cloud provider, we have the concept of what we call a shared responsibility model. Pizza.
You're way far back. Let's just talk about the Purview product and what it provides.
You're
way too. You know how many times I sit there? Whenever I hear the shared responsibility stuff, I'm just like, whenever I'm in any sort of presentation, I'm just like, no, because I've heard that a million times. So let's go to Purview and talk about where this is at in Purview.
So Purview's got this cool feature called Compliance Manager. And if you need to subscribe to an industry certification, you can actually head over to Compliance Manager and you can click on the assessments tab or the regulations tab, and it will give you, I think there's about 400 standards that Microsoft believes they are compliant in, right? And what this allows you to do is we'll show you a set of controls that's mapped to the industry standard, like ISO 27001. It's got various actions that's associated with it. It will show you what Microsoft conforms to and what you as an organization need to conform to.
And this is specific to what you're doing with Microsoft 365.
Yes.
Specific to Microsoft 365. And so when it comes to Azure, you go to Defender for Cloud for the same sort of thing, and then select the plans that you're working with.
It's similar, yes. I mean, there's stuff like there's a data protection baseline and a few other things, but in the Defender for Cloud side, Microsoft's actually got like a baseline. Well,
they got a baseline that's free, but then if you pay for the advanced plan, you can actually go choose the other plans like you do on the premium stuff with inside.
Purview. So again, like Ed was saying earlier on, where do I go to, and we've debated this around, a content search, the content search, or audit's an audit, right? Your personas, where they live in, they're getting that similar experience, right? That unified experience. So do compliance inside of, although the compliance inside of Defender for Cloud is going to include, or it's going to just look at what happens inside of Azure. Whereas
it's mainly Purview's M365 primarily.
Yeah. But you don't have to start from nothing and try to come up with these things by your own. Just go run the NIST AI risk management framework assessment. Got to buy the tool. Well, you got to buy the assessment template for that, and run that through your organization, because you don't start from scratch. You're now at 27% complete instead of 0% complete.
Yeah, one thing that I want to ask you about really quick is that, as with all things, we used to beat up on developers because they had godlike rights, because it was easy just to give it to them for them to do their job, and they weren't checking things in.
And what's wrong with that?
Well, here we go. But here's the thing that I'm looking at. Everything seems agent creation, deployment, use. It seems so individually tasked, meaning I have yet to hear about automation of agent deployment in the way that we deploy traditional compute resources, where we start using all these things: goal policy, bicep, ARM. You had to go through this to be able to create it, so that you had a standard. It seems now that when this age of agentic, use case models, that everybody's creating everything one-off. Like, where is the model that automatically says every agent ever created will get these set of standards regardless of what that agent does, and then everything else will be considered an exception? Because right now, to me, it seems like every agent is an exception to the rules that are set for traditional identities that are attached to biological units. Pinch my skin, I live, I get an agent, I get an ID. But and now it just seems like you create an agent, and it's an episode. It's the movie Catch Me As You Can, right? And how is secure agent lifecycle development occurring? And we probably need to trademark that.
That's a much bigger topic, and also I don't think we can.
Yeah, we can't get it in
because you have to start looking at the fact that most users now can say, create me an agent to do X, Y, Z, and it's created for them. That's something you could not do.
You know what I would do? Code. You know what I would do? And this is a business model. Frank, write it down. We'll start a business. One of the things that drove Security Copilot crazy was the concept of SCUs, which are essentially token credits versus time versus task, effort, and the expenditure. What you should do is create agent tokens for creation. So every user in there gets a certain amount of tokens to create an agent, meaning that you get one token to create an agent, and that's it. And once that's done, you can't create another, right? Because otherwise, how many orphan agents are you going to have soon? Oh, that didn't work.
We've been dealing with this with SharePoint sites, with apps. So this is a known entity. It's just another.
You need an agent to clean up your agents.
You need an agent to clean up your agent, and you probably need to go there and make agents justify their existence and be able to see it. Right?
I think as
that's
this
the first
matures,
agent you create.
I mean, Microsoft has started off with the first thing of being able to monitor and move forward. So I think there's a lot of experience that they can bring to the table to mature this entire overall process.
And I think Microsoft is probably drinking the Kool-Aid. I work here. I think they're the best suited entity to be able to come up with the concept of prevent this agent sprawl, because short of Google, nobody else has an operational or consumer landscape like Microsoft. On the OS, on the email, on the collaboration tools. You're one of these.
But as they say, follow the incentive. You'll see where the money is, or whatever they say.
The incentive is not to be a obstructor, because a lot of innovation is because of lack of regulation. You can coin that phrase. A lot of innovation is because of lack of regulation, and that can go either way.
So I'm interested in seeing what they do with ai.security.microsoft.com. I can't get to that, so
I can't get to it either. I thought it was just me. Roy, can you get to it?
Yeah, I was doing the same thing, and I couldn't get there. Nope, I can get there. It's behind the Microsoft paywall right now, so it's still in internal, but
I know how to get to it.
Access denied at this moment.
So it would be interesting to see where they go with that, with that executive level compliance governance going on there.
To get access.
All right, do you guys have any other questions for Alistair here? And if not, then let's find out where people can find him.
So we're at the time. So Alistair, a couple things. How can people find you? How can people go to all the things that you share, all your infinite wisdom is? Put it in the chat, give it to us. If someone wants to come in and throw you a random question, how would they find you?
I'm on the socials, probably LinkedIn's easier, at Alistair Pugin. My surname is on the screen. You can find me there, reach out to me. We run a couple of shows. We do the application governance stuff for eNow. We've got Copilot Zero to Hero Season 2 kicking off at the beginning of the year. There's another workflow experience podcast that we're launching at the beginning of the year. Easiest place, find me on LinkedIn. And, I'll be at a few conferences next year as well. The Microsoft 365 Community Conference in Florida. The European Collaboration Summit in Cologne, Germany later. I think it's in May. But I'll be out to the US a couple of times. Obviously, MVP Summit in March.
That one.
I won't see you there.
Yeah. The one in Florida, that's in February, right?
No, that's in April.
April. Okay. Yeah.
Frank, you may be happy with my news in January. So.
Oh.
Put it that way.
I won't ask them.
Yeah, I know. Mom's worried on me. Frank, if you pay me, I'll tell you.
No, it's okay.
It's all right.
So I'm looking forward to having you back on the show. And whenever you have anything you want to talk about that you're not talking about on your other shows, please let us know.
You don't have to wait for the invite, so just come on here. And some days you may show up and we don't. That's fine too. We'll do that. Well, everyone, this has been an interesting show. Between talking about, this company being a frontier company, Agent 365, understanding the nuances of where the access and availability, observability is between security.microsoft.com, AI-security.microsoft.com, Purview.com, and then I actually showed Priva, which I thought that portal was gone, but I was in Priva. It's still up, right? And just there are numerous ways to skin the cat. You just need enough cats to practice on. I am very much interested in what all the companies are doing, how they are addressing AI usage, AI security, and the proliferation of this. One thing that I'll put a big brain out is this. Maybe because I'm not as connected to, the dark, shadowy places that are the underweb, the deep web, security research, threat intelligence. I don't see a lot of chatter around people abusing this AI thing, because to me, I would think AI build me a tool that can circumvent and avoid detection of rogue AI elements using AI to do that. I'm not really seeing anything out there to people that's an active threat vector. I wonder if that's there and we're not.
Yeah.
Oh, it's there.
It's the scariest thing.
Yeah,
for me.
I'm just not running those channels like I used to, and maybe I need to get back into that because
take a look at the MITRE attack force specifically for LLMs. You'll learn more about that.
Yeah.
So
what's around with it? I hear the buzzwords. I understand exactly what data poisoning, prompt injection, side loading, all this stuff. I give you this one. We'll end the show with this. Alistair, think about this. This probably is a combination between me, you, and Frank, and all of us on this. Customer said, I want to be able to protect the AI usage at the endpoint because if someone sideloads a model that imitates one that we have sanctioned and it gets past that, they are now modeling and using something with our actual data that we didn't support. And I tell you, I see it now in my lab where I have some people. I see applications created because they use the UPN of the tenant. And I'm like, who registered Chat GPT in my org? But they use the UPN rather than their personal, like, oh crap. So I'm wondering this quick question. Remember the old thing? If you didn't go off into your org settings and say only admins can consent, I wonder if that's what's happening.
Yeah. It's all there.
Yeah, I'm behind the curve on this. I got to figure this out. Frank is a terrible teacher. He doesn't give me any homework. He doesn't give me any useful tasks. He's telling me to take CISO courses.
I'm just telling you, I'm giving you homework. Just if you do the homework, you'll get it.
I'll do the homework. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning into the show. This is our last show of the 2025 year. We will be back January 8th to bring in the show. We don't have a guest. It'll be the three of us, probably someone that may want to pop in and tell about their holiday escapades. Stay tuned to what we're going to do next year. We'll give a rundown of everything that we plan in 2026. We definitely will have Women in Cyber Month. We'll have Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We'll have Partner Month. If any of our listeners have an idea for a theme month, submit it to us via our Discord channels or just send us an email or send it here. I don't know. And thanks so much for an awesome 2025. This is the first year, Frank, Rod, that we have not had a Christmas show.
Well, this is a Christmas show. I feel
we used to have a little floppy, but this is the way it dropped. This is the first year we did not really have a Christmas.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. And we've been doing this 5.5 years.
Almost 6
so
years.
the first show in January, leave up all the Christmas trees, all that stuff.
Oh,
just have
we
it
can
then.
show off our presents. We can show off all the presents we got.
I'll be eating reindeer steaks. Yum.
Of course, we're getting one of those split level, those split king mattress dealios. So I don't know if I could show that on the show.
No, yeah, let's not do that. Everyone, have a good night.
All right.
Cheers, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Merry
Alistair.
Christmas.
Look at that way.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you, Esther.
See you next year.